Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, October 11th. The Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting will now come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Spencer,
Present.
Alderman Narayan, Alderwoman Velazquez,
Present.
Alderman Browning,
Present.
Chair Cone,
Present.
Alderman Narayan. We have 4 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our meeting Tuesday, October 3rd. I will entertain a motion on the approval of our minutes.
So moved.
That's not a motion.
I move to approve the minutes
From our October 3rd meeting.
from our October 3rd meeting.
Second.
There's been a motion from the Alderman of the 6th, a second from the Alderman of the 8th, or I'm sorry, the 9th, that we approve the minutes from our October 3rd meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan, Alderwoman Velazquez,
Aye.
Alderman Browning,
Aye.
Chair Cone,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. We have 4 aye votes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. And thank you, committee members. Appreciate that. I do want to note that on one of the agendas that was published, I believe we had Board Bill 104 and Board Bill 114 initially slated for hearings today. The sponsors of those bills have asked for them not to be heard today, and we'll schedule a future hearing date to hear those. So we have 4, I believe it's 4 board bills before us today. They are related, I believe, all to the airport. So the first board bill that is before us is 110. Do we have representatives from the airport here today that are going to be speaking on Board Bill 110? I see Rob.
Antonio will speak on 110.
Okay, is Antonio here? I don't know if I saw. Yeah, okay.
Good.
Antonio,
good morning,
are you available
Chairman.
to speak on Board Bill 110?
Yes, sir. So good morning, Transportation and Commerce Committee. This Board Bill 110 is a draft ordinance authorizing the issuance of special facility revenue bonds. We have been working for many years for Terminal 2 baggage expansion. With us today, we have our leading municipal advisor from Siebert Williams Schacht, David Stenfel, and he's going to provide a brief presentation to you to kind of give you a broad overview of the of this board bill and what we're requesting. So David, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and produce the presentation.
Mr. David.
David, he would need to be sworn in before providing any testimony at the hearing since he's not a city employee. Madam Clerk, will you please take care of that?
Yes. Mr. David, is that David Stenfel? Could you please raise your right hand for me? Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. May I proceed?
You may proceed.
Okay, awesome. Good morning, Alderman. My name is David Stenfel. I serve as a managing director and lead financial advisor for the airport. My firm has been in this capacity for about a couple of decades, helping the airport through various transitions and expansions, and very much looking forward to present to you on this agenda item today. May I please share my screen? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm accustomed to using Teams, so forgive me. I have to figure out how to do this on Zoom again. Oh, the big green arrow at the bottom. I see. You won't get me yet, Zoom. Alrighty, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Let me see if I can I thought there was a way to make this full screen to view, maybe. Full screen mode. Is that better? Okay, great. I'll proceed then. How do I minimize all this? So today I'm here to present to you an upcoming potential financing for the airport. It's to finance the Terminal 2 baggage claim, which is the terminal that is used by Southwest Airlines. Some of you may recall that roughly about a year ago, the airport was planning to issue GARBs, or what are called general airport revenue bonds, to finance the renovation of the Terminal 2 baggage claim. But because only one airline was going to pay for and use the facility, which is the project, which is the Terminal 2 baggage claim, the city has to use a different form of bond issuance credit in order to proceed. General airport revenue bonds, which are paid by the airline use agreement that governs the interaction between the city, the airport, and all of the airlines, are used to pay for projects that all of the airlines are going to benefit from. Whereas with this specific project, only Southwest is going to pay for it. Hence, there is a new type of credit that's created solely for this type of project, which is called a special facilities revenue bond. So it's basically just jargon to say that only one airline is going to pay for this facility. Many airports and airlines have arrangements like this around the country. Southwest did one with Love Field back in 2010, JFK with American Airlines more recently. There's a deal I'm working on with Delta Airlines at JFK as well, which for $900 million. So this is a very common sort of practice, if you will, to create a new credit in order to finance a specific project that benefits one airline. One key component of this too is that because Southwest is only going to be the beneficiary of the baggage claim, effectively this is almost like a Southwest bond issuance. Southwest will fully pay for the cost of issuance, the underwriter's discount, as well as all of the principal and debt service over the 10-year proposed life of the bonds. So it means that there's very minimal risk to the city. So effectively, Southwest has agreed to pay the payments for debt service on these bonds. And in fact, they agreed to pay in monthly increments, which is a little bit accelerated compared to traditional bond issuances where the city could, aggregate the money at the very end, right before principal and interest payment. There's a description here of the facilities in the second bullet. Will add approximately 11,000 square feet of public space to Terminal 2 and 10,000 square feet on the terminal secure side, which is all of the, baggage handling. I won't go through each of these bullets with respect to the specifics of the project, but you can read through them. And then finally, I wanted to note at the bottom that there are a couple of agreements that govern the credit that the city will sell on behalf of Southwest. The first is there's a memorandum of agreement, which I assume many of you are familiar with, have been worked on over the past year. And there's also a special facilities agreement between the city and Southwest, again, that further defines the relationship between the city and the airport. The city and the airline. Moving to this next page, I wanted to share some preliminary statistics with respect to the proposed bond issuance. I should note that, as many of you have been following, due to inflation that really kicked off in the top of January 2022, the tax-exempt municipal market as well as the taxable bond market have seen significant increases in interest rates over the past 24 months. And the projection right now, based on the Fed's dot plot, is that we either have hit a terminal rate or there will be additional, interest rate increases over the foreseeable future. And the foreseeable future, in my mind, is the 6 to 12 month range of the Fed dot plot. So I share that only to say that the statistics that you see on this page are all preliminary, subject to change. And in fact, they're likely already stale by now. Because again, the interest rate market is continuing to move. Just last week, rates went up by over 50 basis points, which is a highly unusual move for the market. And that was built off of the Fed deciding not to move interest rates the prior Wednesday before that, but indicating that they might keep interest rates higher for longer. And then just yesterday, which was the first day back from a holiday, interest rates dropped significantly. They dropped 8 to 9 basis points across the 30-year yield curve, the tax-exempt 30-year yield curve. So again, rates are moving in different directions, different days. So anything that you see on this page is definitely going to be subject to change and dependent on where interest rates are at the time of pricing, and ultimately what structures investors are most interested in at the time of pricing. With those disclaimers aside, what we're generally expecting is a closing date of December 20th, 2023, and a 10-year final maturity in 2033. Par of about 56 million and premium generated, because we're selling premium bonds, of about 4 million. That premium number will go up or go down slightly depending on where prevailing interest rates are and what coupons we sell. Proceeds of the project are expected to be about 60 million, which the proceeds are really the amount of money that goes into the construction fund. And using these statistics, we're expecting around a true interest cost of about 3 to 4%. The average life of the bonds will be about 6 years. As I said, they have a 10-year final maturity. So the average life is really a sum product of all of the principal payments across the 10-year life of the bonds. And total debt service, which comprises both principal payments plus the cost of financing, which is your interest payments, is estimated to be about 74.5 million. You can see on the graph at the bottom how we're expecting debt service to be paid. This is one of two scenarios that we've been contemplating. This is more of a conservative structure in the sense that it allows 24 and 25 to have no principal payments so that the facility can be constructed. And then when there's beneficial use of the facility, larger principal payments will commence in 2026. However, if we shift some principal payments into 24 and 25, that lowers overall debt service. And I think ultimately that's the structure that we'll sell to investors. It's a lower cost of financing. And frankly, Southwest, even though the facilities won't be built, Southwest has the money to start paying principal and interest almost immediately. I will turn to the last page of the presentation and appreciate your indulgence. The key financing dates shown on the top of this page are, we expect to release the preliminary official statement, which is the primary offering document that investors will use to determine whether or not they like the credit and whether or not they want to invest in the credit, alongside an investor presentation. This investor presentation will be a little bit unusual in the sense that usually when the city issues general airport revenue bonds or GARPs, the presentation is primarily about the city, its local economy, as well as the actual airport. Whereas this investor presentation will really be about Southwest. It'll be driven by Southwest. So it'll be about their latest quarterly financials, their expectations for growth, their employment, so forth. I'm sorry, was there a question I can answer? Forgive me, I thought I might have heard a noise. And then December 6th, 2023, we're expecting to price the bonds. In previous times when I've presented to you, those dates are usually pretty firm because we don't have as much volatility. We didn't have as much volatility in the interest rate markets. Now with significant volatility, we'll be carefully monitoring not only where interest rates are moving the night before pricing, the day of pricing, to determine if we think pricing on December 6th is in fact a good day. We'll also be monitoring other economic announcements. So for example, PPI, CPI announcements, unemployment announcements, and announcements about GDP, so on and so forth. We'll also be monitoring very closely competing bond supply. So other airlines that are coming to market with special facilities deals, other transportation entities that come to market with AMT bond issuances, because this is an AMT issuance, as well as any other competing supply, particularly from Midwest airports as well. And the thought is that to the extent that December 6th doesn't look to be an appropriate date of price based on any number of factors, the city would make a recommendation to postpone it for maybe a day or two, wait for, whatever conditions we're seeing to subside and then re-enter the market at a different time. So generally, we're focusing on December 6th, but we're going to have a little bit of flexibility here. And then finally, we're planning to close on December 20th, and closing is the date at which bonds will exchange hands from the city over to investors, and cash proceeds from investors will be exchanged to the city to develop the project. On the bottom of the page, we have a little bit of information about the proposed financing team. There are 13 firms, 11 of which have local St. Louis offices or are headquartered in St. Louis. And that represents about 85% of the firms that are presented to you here. And of those, just a little over half of them are minority or women-owned firms, including my own, which is both a minority and a woman-owned firm, which we're very proud of. That concludes the presentation, and I'll pause there, I suppose, for questions. And a little bit under the weather, so forgive me for sounding so nasal, but just try to bear with me, and I appreciate it.
That is no problem. I've been dealing with bronchitis for a month and a half, so I can completely relate and appreciate that. I see that the airport director has joined us. I wasn't sure, Rhonda, do you have anything that you would like to add to this particular board bill?
The only thing, and my apologies for joining late, and this may have come up, but just in terms of the timing, this is all relative to the bonds. But the project is just at 90% complete design here by the end of the month. And so once the bonds are sold, we'll be ready to go out for bid for the construction of it. It is about close to a 2-year project to get open all the way through. So you'll see some of the new carousel open a little bit before that, but then some renovations to the existing carousel will happen once the new carousel is open. So this is about a 2-year window once we actually start the process. So it's a little longer term than saying it's going to be open this summer. So that was the only thing I wanted to add, just so people understood the complexity of the actual project.
Could you also maybe just elaborate in terms of how this fits in with the kind of longer term vision for the airport?
Sure. So, it's interesting because this was the project that got held up during privatization. So it should have been open probably 4 years ago. And then COVID hit, so then it got held up further. So because we were working on the potential new consolidated terminal build, we actually weren't sure if Southwest still wanted to do this, knowing that it is in probably a short lifespan compared to what a normal transaction would be if you're installing a new bag system. But we've had lots of conversations with them. They know that even with the new consolidated terminal, if that happens and goes through, that they're still going to probably be in the terminal till the end of 2031. So with that and the anticipated growth that they're looking at, the schedule that we have with Southwest in March will be their biggest schedule ever. It has about 7% more seats than March of 2019. So they felt that from a customer perspective, it was important for them to build this and spend it. So we agreed that we would move forward with it in partnership with them. As you heard David talk about, this is funded by them while we're selling the bonds. They come back and pay for it through a rate base. So when this opens, and that's part of the reason we have like a defeasance at the end, our hope is that the new terminal moves forward and that this would be closed down at that point when the new terminal would happen. Southwest is fully aware of that and still chose to move forward just based on the strength of their operation here.
Great, thank you. Antonio, do you have anything further that you'd like to add?
No, I was just going to actually present the board bill for a request for approval, if you would like me to do that right now.
Well, we'll go ahead and take questions from the committee before moving forward with approval. Vice Chair Spencer.
I don't have any questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just excited to see this move forward.
Alderman Narayan. Actually, Madam Clerk, Alderman Narayan did ask to be excused for the purposes of this meeting, so I'm gonna just skip over him for the remainder of the meeting. Alderwoman Velasquez.
I don't have any questions. Thank you to all the members of thank you, David, for speaking with us, and thank you, Rhonda, as well.
Alderman Browning.
No questions, thank you. Just again, thank you to Rhonda and David. I continue to be impressed by the thoughtfulness with which you're approaching this.
If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 110.
I move that we pass Board Bill 110 with a due pass recommendation.
Second,
It's been moved by the Alderwoman of the 8th Ward, seconded by the Alderman of the 9th Ward, that we approve Board Bill 110 with a due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Velasquez,
Aye.
Alderman Browning,
aye.
Chair Cone.
Aye.
We have 4 aye votes.
With that vote, you sustain the motion to pass Board Bill 110 out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Thank you all for your time this morning. We're moving on to Board Bill number 111. Who will be speaking to Board Bill 111?
That's going to be Rob Salarano.
Oh, wonderful. Rob, you're up.
Good morning, Alderman, Alderwoman. My name is Robert Salarano, and I'm requesting your approval today for Board Bill number 111, an ordinance authorizing the airport to enter into an airport display advertising concession agreement with Lamar Advertising Company. The airport display advertising program is a series of wall displays, fabric displays, backlit wall mounts, floor spectaculars, and video stripes that are located throughout the airport. And the airport concessionaire, in this case, Lamar Airport Advertising, sells the advertising on those, and the airport shares in that revenue. It's a typical concession at the airport. We're asking for 7-year contract term beginning November 1st, 2023. Revenue to the airport will be the minimum annual guarantee as calculated in the agreement, and a percentage fee of 50% of their gross receipts. ACDBE participation, the ACDBE participation goal on this agreement was 8.5%, and Lamar Airport Advertising Company will fill that ACDBE percentage goal at 8.5% with EJO Ventures. This was a request for proposals that was released to the public, and we had one proposer interested, Lamar Airport Advertising Company, a selection committee made up of one member from the mayor's office, one member from the president of the Board of Aldermen's office, one member from the comptroller's office, and 2 members of the airport staff selected Lamar Airport Advertising Company as the successful proposer. We respectfully request your approval of this ordinance.
Okay, are there any questions from the committee? Vice Chair Spencer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just was curious, is this the 50% split? Is this typical? Do we know what other airports are doing with that? Can you speak in a broader context for us?
Now, yeah, it is very typical, and I looked at a number of different airports in both MAG and percentage fees, and they range anywhere from, a lot of them have different setups from anywhere from 40 to 50, 55%. We did include a minimum annual guarantee, so we're comfortable at the 50%.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
You may have said this, but you said this was initially designed as a request for proposal,
Yes,
correct? Were there any,
that's correct.
were there any other bidders? Were there?
No, Lamar Airport Advertising Company was the only proposer that proposed.
And they've been, I mean, just assume they have do they have a longstanding relationship with the airport?
No, we're actually very excited. This is the first time Lamar is going to be here. For a long time, Clear Channel Airport Advertising had the agreement, and we're excited to see a change. Well, let's put it that way. Well, we're excited to see Lamar come in. Lamar isn't a very experienced airport advertising provider. They do it in a number of airports across the nation.
And just on that note, do they do it with, I don't want to say our competitors, but are they the advertiser that works with some of the other airports that might be about the same size as St. Louis or the same volume, I guess?
They do. We looked at Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Fort Lauderdale, San Diego. They have a number of airports, and a number of which are in our size category.
And the thing I'll add to that is, and we were excited. I mean, Clear Channel's had the contract for a while, and they're doing a lot of internal changes in their own corporation, and they chose not to bid. But we were really excited about Lamar coming in because they do have a really strong reputation. I also think they'll be far more aggressive. I mean, they've already been reaching out to new contacts in the area about advertising. And I spoke with them. I was at a conference. Antonio and I were at a conference last week in Long Beach for airport CEOs and CFOs, and had a lengthy conversation with them. But their initial contacts is they feel like there's a lot of untapped market here that just Clear Channel didn't tap into, that they think they'll be able to. So we're really excited about them coming on board. I think you'll see the advertising in the airport far more vibrant in the coming months.
Great. Well, I don't have any other questions, Chair Cohn. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Browning.
Thank you. No questions at this time. Excited to see what Lamar can bring.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion on Board Bill 111.
I move that we pass Board Bill 111 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th Ward, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th Ward, that we pass Board Bill 111 out with a due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Previous roll.
There's been a call for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 111 passes out with a due pass recommendation. The next board bill on our list is Board Bill number 112. Rob, is this, or Rhonda?
Antonio's going to present this one. This
Oh,
is more of a
wonderful.
budget item, so Rob will take the next one, but Antonio's going to present this one.
Great, thank you. Antonio, floor is yours.
Okay, so this draft board bill is requesting your authorization for a supplemental appropriation from our airport development fund of 1.5 million into our operations and maintenance fund. The reason why that we're requesting this request for a transfer into our operations maintenance fund is because we have been working with the airlines for the approval for to move forward with a consolidated terminal project. Well, in order for us to move forward with the consolidated terminal project, there are some precursor and enabling projects that we need to move forward with. And we recently received majority and interest approval from the airlines for those projects, which we're going to issue bonds that you will hear from us in the future to issue bonds for those projects. But however, to govern those projects and to design those projects, we need a little bit of expertise and experience from experts in this field. So we have to move forward with an executive program management contract in the future that will help with the planning, funding, design, and procurement of these projects. So that is the purpose of this transfer into our operation and maintenance budget. We have also discussed this extensively with our airlines, and they agreed that this is the appropriate move with this project, and that this will also be recovered in our rates and charges to the airlines. So at this point in time, I request your approval for this transfer of 1.5 million into our operation and maintenance fund to procure professional services for an executive program management contract.
Mr. Chairman, may I add one comment to that?
Absolutely.
So this would be an RFP let through the Board of Public Service. So we've been working with Rich Bradley. The RFP has been drafted. This is a very specialized small team of 2 or 3 people. There's a handful of firms in the country that do this at these high-level projects. Most of these have been people that have spent their life at airports, in aviation, in construction, and in helping teams supplement their own staff. So BPS would actually, once approved, BPS would actually let the RFP. We would hope that that would be by the end of this month, assuming all the approvals have been received. And then, of course, there'd be a selection committee with BPS in doing that. It is something that would go out across the country. There is a lot of interest in this just based on the projects at hand and all of the things that the airport's working on. So we're excited to help supplement the team and just with some expertise and high level management people that have done this on numerous other occasions at other airports.
Okay, thank you. We'll take questions from the committee. Vice Chair Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions at this time.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
I have no questions at this time.
Alderman Browning.
No questions. Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion on Board Bill 112.
I move that we pass Board Bill 112 with a due pass recommendation.
Second, previous roll.
Then motion by the Alderman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we pass Board Bill 112 out with a due pass recommendation. There's been a call for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill 112 passes out with a due pass recommendation. The next and last item on our agenda is Board Bill number 113. Rob, the floor is
Yes, sir.
yours.
We're requesting your approval for Board Bill 113, which authorizes an ordinance authorizing a full-service banking concession agreement with U.S. Bank at the airport. U.S. Bank operates a full-service branch on the lower level of Terminal 1 and also has approximately 7 ATMs throughout the terminal complex. The agreement's due to commence December 1st, 2023, and will end November 30th, 2027. The concessionaire pays a concession fee of 50% of the gross receipts for foreign ATM transactions. In other words, those are transactions when a non-US bank customer comes up to the ATM and uses it, they're charged a fee. We get 50% of that fee. The bank also pays the square foot rental rate in effect for Terminal 1, which changes July 1st of each year. It's currently $13.59 per square foot. This was a solicitation for bid. We released the solicitation for bid on March 17th, 2023, and bids were due on May 9th, 2023. U.S. Bank was a qualified and responsive bidder and was also the sole bidder. We respectfully request your approval of this concession agreement with U.S. Bank.
Okay, questions from the committee, Vice Chair Spencer.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderman or Alderwoman Velasquez.
I have no questions at this time either. Thank you.
Alderman Browning.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion on Board Bill 113.
I move that we pass Board Bill 113 with a due pass recommendation.
Second, and previous roll.
It's been moved by the Alderman of the 8th Ward, seconded by the Alderman of the 9th Ward, that we pass Board Bill 113 out with a due pass recommendation. There's been a motion for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 113 passes out of committee with a due pass recommendation. That concludes our items for business during our committee hearing today. There's no resolutions for review. No committee discussion is mentioned on the agenda for today. I don't have any announcements at this point in time, and I would ask that the alderman from the 4th Ward be excused. Madam Clerk, as
Yes.
he let me know in advance that he would not be attending today's hearing.
That is noted.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second,
It's been moved by the Alderman of the 8th, seconded by the Alderman of the 6th that we adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Everyone take care. Have a good day.